Hi everyone, welcome to Webinar Wednesday, and today's topic is overcoming resistance. And I've got a guest presenter today, Renee LaBrence, and I'm very excited to have her because we're going to be talking about resistance, the work of Stephen Pressfield, and then also give you some strategies as to how to overcome resistance, because just because we name it doesn't mean we know what to do about it. So Renee, if you could hit the next slide, that would be great.
There you are, Eva.
There I am. So this is me. Just a little bit of background on myself. I am a 30-year veteran of corporate America. I was an IT consultant for 30-some years, and now I'm a certified life coach, a certified EFT practitioner, a speaker. I also co-host a radio show with my husband, Weekly Corporate Talk with Charlie and Eva. And we are the co-founders of the Vision Up Group. So if you could hit the next slide.
And there I am. There I am.
So please introduce yourself.
I'm also a 30-year veteran of corporate America. I've worked at companies like General Electric and Booz Allen Hamilton in Washington, D.C. I enjoyed corporate America, but one of the things that I found that I was doing over and over again was doing a lot of mentoring with folks and helping them to succeed in their career choices. I'm also an EFT practitioner, which I love EFT tapping, and I find that personally it's given me a great deal of clarity, which has been great. And here we are.
Where you and I met, we met during training and we hit it off, and so I love that we're able to collaborate and kind of put our heads together and help people with the different issues that we have experienced and deal with. So it's perfect.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
So I also wanted to talk a little bit about an upcoming webinar. Webinar Wednesdays are the last Wednesday of every month at 2 p.m. Eastern. And in October, since we were talking about resistance this month, I thought October would be a good time to talk about how to make lasting change because it's tough. And I'm going to be talking about the mind-body connection. So we're going to hit on that a little bit today when we talk about EFT, because every time we try to make a change, basically our body fights us. So you might be thinking good thoughts, using your affirmations, which those work well, but also if you have any blockages, a lot of those feelings are housed in your body, and EFT and different techniques can help you release those. So we'll be talking about that in October. I'll also be sending out an email on that so you can sign up. And if you could go to the next slide.
Okay.
So here we go. Let's talk about resistance.
Resistance to what? I love what Stephen Pressfield said in The War of Art. He says, most of us have two lives, the lives we live and the unlived life within us. Between the two stands resistance. And it's really true because we're trying to shape ourselves into the best person that we can be, the best version of ourselves. And in between, where we're at and where we're trying to get to is a tremendous amount of resistance. And it can appear as influences from other people, parents, teachers, mentors, people we admire, and it could be sending us in the wrong direction.
Oh yeah, that's such a great point. So many times, and I know you're going to be talking about it on the next slide, every time we try to do something big, they call it self-sabotage, right? And I like that he calls it resistance. It's just, us kind of fighting ourselves. And The War of Art, as you know, is just Stephen.
Yeah, it's a great book. I've got it underlined and dog-eared, and I love my copy. I want to buy a case of it and give a copy to all my friends. It's terrific. It's terrific, yeah. So next slide. What resistance looks like. I love this slide because it is invisible, internal, and insidious, and it affects every single one of us. But the real focus of this slide is the fact that you have to do your work. If you're not doing the work, your passion, your reason for living is never going to be felt by you. and you're going to go through the motions of living your life, and without any shout of passion, without anything that really looks like what you want your life to look like. So you have to face the fact that it's invisible, its goal is not to maim but to kill, and it is the enemy within. And every single person who's breathing, a breather, experiences resistance.
You know, it's so true. And I actually was at a conference about a month ago, and people were talking about, well, if it wasn't for my husband, or if it wasn't for my kids, or if it wasn't for this killer job, I would be able to start going after my dreams. And because my background is a little bit different, I didn't get married until my 50s, I said, I'm going to tell you something. I'm an only child. I don't have any children. And I didn't have a husband until I got married in my 50s. And I still didn't do everything I wanted to do. So it's not them. It's us, you know. And I actually had a friend that kept saying it was his mortgage. And his you know, I told him I would go back to work, I would sell the house if he would just leave that horrible job of his. And he's still in that job to this day, and that was literally like 30 years ago. 30 years ago, and he's still in it, right? And he hated it for all that time. So that's why we're talking about resistance today, because you want to name it so that you know how to then strategize to get around it, because it hits every single one of us when we try to do something cool.
Exactly. So the next slide talks about what resistance feels like. And Stephen Pressfield says it feels like absolute hell. It's just a low-grade misery that pervades everything. And it's really true. There is a joke among people who work in the field of psychology, and I'm sitting in the Radisson. The Radisson has been kind enough to allow me to do the webinar from here, so you might hear some background noise. This joke among energy psychology professionals is, how many energy psychology professionals does it take to change a light bulb? Well, only one. But the light bulb has to really want to change. And it's so true. I see it all the time. I had one woman come to me, and she really wanted to change herself, her life. She'd been going to a psychiatrist for 7 years. And I know a lot of psychiatrists who can do a lot of good with medication. And that was the case with her. She was on a ton of medication. But when I asked her what she wanted to accomplish with a session with me, she had no idea. She had no voice about what she wanted. She didn't know if she wanted to remove certain feelings. She didn't know what she wanted in life. And I had to tell her at the end of the session that I really couldn't help her. And I kept thinking, in this case, the light bulb really doesn't want to change. The light bulb is happy being stuck there.
Yeah, and you know, a lot of times the fear is just too great to look at what you really want to do.
Exactly. It made her very dysfunctional.
Right.
And it was really a shame. She was a nice lady. I felt really bad about that. But you got to do the work. You've got to be willing to do the work. So that's a big deal. What elicits resistance? Well, the thing about resistance is you've got to do the work. We say that over and over again.
Mm-hmm.
Discovering who you are now and who you want to be is an amazing, life-changing education. You can really feel the shift when you're aware of yourself, when you're responding authentically. And that means that you've got to get beyond immediate gratification in favor of long-term growth. And you feel the shift. I'll tell a story on myself. The story is that I have a friend who injured herself. She had a broken leg, and she had to have surgery, and it was pretty major. And the community got together and they said, well, she's going to need meals for herself and her family after surgery for a couple of weeks. And so, yeah, I was all for it. Let me go ahead and get on the list. So I got the text saying, well, you're scheduled for Monday night, and here's what they want. And they wanted these recipes made for them. They wanted them made without certain ingredients, but with other ingredients. They wanted these side dishes, and then they wanted a homemade chocolate layer cake with homemade chocolate frosting.
Okay.
And I was really amazed at myself. I was very annoyed. I was very annoyed. I thought, my goodness, I'm cooking for them. I'm a good cook. I don't understand this. And then I started realizing that I was resisting this whole setup. And I had a long talk with myself, did some tapping, and I realized that I was coming from a negative spot inside of me. And what I really needed to be doing was coming from a higher, long-term feeling about myself, a higher nature. And when I did that, I thought, wow, I should be looking at her as if she's my daughter. If my daughter called me and said, oh, Mom, I need help, my leg is so bad, I would immediately say, oh, honey, what can I do for you? What do you want me to make you? And then when I finally got myself turned around into that mode, not only did I find the bliss in making this meal for them, this lavish meal, but I made 2 of them and dropped another set of food off at a friend's house. I got so wrapped up in the happiness, the bliss of doing it. And I was really proud of myself for overcoming that.
Well, and that's a pretty amazing story, because that could go one of 2 ways, right? So if you don't let go of that resentment, so you could actually go back and say, oh, I can't do it, right? That's being authentic. If you do the work and you're sitting there and you're thinking authentically, I can't make this meal, right? This is like too much. Then you go back and you say, you give alternatives or however you do it, but you don't make it out of spite, because it's almost like they're eating food that's made with spite, which isn't a good thing when you're sick, right?
Right.
Right. So, but what you did was you turned it around and you cooked that meal from a place of love. So there's 2 different ways that you could go at this authentically. You found the place where you could look at it authentically and say, I really want to help this person and give this person what they need. And then you created it with love, which is good for them and good for you. Or if you feel that you can't do it, then you again authentically say, no, but I can give you this, that, or the other, whatever it is that you do feel good about giving. Right. Just that, you're so right. It's just about coming from that authentic place and figuring out what that authentic place is.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, next slide, manifestations of resistance. I deliberately wanted this slide to look crazy because manifestations of resistance are crazy. And my life has looked like this slide. I think a lot of people go into this. One of the things I'd really like to highlight at this point is victimhood or victim identity. I just can't do it. Somebody else needs to take over.
Yeah.
Somebody else needs to do this for me. Or it always happens to me. I'm just cursed. Save me. Save me. I have no voice. I have no power. Victim identity can really do a number on people. And if it is causing you problems, you really need to seek the help of someone who has some experience counseling and working through victim identity. It happens a lot to people who are abused.
Yes.
Abuse of especially women and children is a very big issue for me. I'm a real advocate for that, for helping them.
I think it's really interesting what you said about that, about the abuse. And I know, like, what can happen with me, like when I was young and I was quiet, people would talk for me. And or they would say, oh, you can't do that. Like my mother would be my voice for me. Not that she meant to do that or she meant to abuse me, but it kind of worked that way because they had really powerful personalities and it could overshadow me. And so what I would find was as I got older, there would be times I would say, oh no, I can't do that without even having tried, without even tried. And that's what I think is good about this work is that it, you know, I might overuse this word, but it's really about empowering yourself, because once you feel that you can do anything, maybe you need help, but that you will go get the help, but that really anything you could do, just about anything that you really want to, it's really feels good.
Mm-hmm. It's true. It's true. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because you're getting better, you're getting well, you're getting smarter, you're becoming self-aware. It's a great thing. Yeah. One comment on criticism here. I think we all tend to, we're all critics of life in general and our own and other people's. And we really need to kind of slow down here and think about criticism and our own opinions and what that can do to folks. When people start beginning to live their authentic selves, let's say they're on a diet and they're feeling better, they're losing weight, they're happier, they look great, it can drive us crazy if we haven't found a healthy solution to our own lives. And we can criticize them easily, just so easily. Yeah, but. And we need to really take a look at that and keep it in check, hold it in check, because people who have realized their own lives almost never criticize others. And I've noticed that in the people that I admire the most, if they speak at all, it is to offer encouragement. If a person is criticizing someone else, they'll speak and they'll help you to understand where the other person is coming from so that you can shut up, you can stop your criticism. And it really, when it manifests itself, it is very cruel and it harms others as well as ourselves. So I did want to highlight that. So now, yeah, I'm sorry, go ahead.
It's almost like we're criticizing ourselves, really, Yeah. Yeah.
Well, you're saying a lot about yourself when you're criticizing other people, and none of it's good.
Yeah.
So, and never forget, the encouraging thing is that we can change our lives beginning at this moment. And this second, we can turn the tables on resistance. I keep going back to Stephen Pressfield, and he says that the only intercourse between a knight and a dragon is a battle. And we need to look at resistance as our dragon. And this idea of slowing down to analyze some of the manifestations of resistance is so that we can conquer it. We live in a very fast-paced, always-on culture, and we tend to do knee-jerk reactions. If we're honest and we slow down to analyze a situation, we can respond instead of react. But we have to be honest, and we have to be very hungry to discover our authentic selves. And that will guide us very wisely in our response.
Yeah, it's so worth it to look for it, because it makes such a difference when you when you do everything from an authentic place. It just makes life so much easier. It just makes it so much easier.
It does. It does. I'm a big proponent of that. And I'll get into it a little more, but this summer I have been the poster child for resistance, because I've been trying to make a big decision in my life, and I have placed every obstacle I could possibly find in the way of making that decision. And so I'm the poster child. I know all about it. One of the things that I've done is procrastination. But I was interested in the fact that there is a link between procrastination and impatience. And I love this picture because there's the girl with her Starbucks office worker and she's got all this work stacked up and everybody else is working. But she's decided to take a nice long break and do her nails.
Right.
And the study that I read was done in 2014. There was a link between chronic procrastination and impatience. And we talk a little more about how to stop procrastination resistance. Procrastination is one of the greatest forms of resistance that we encounter. And I agree with this. Procrastination kills when it becomes a habit. We can put things off until our deathbed.
Yeah, and I can see where that happens because you feel so overwhelmed, you don't know where to begin, so you don't begin at all. And we're going to talk about that. I know you have that in some of the strategies.
Right, right. So we've got a little procrastination quiz to help us out. Question 1, these are true or false. You should never delay a task. And the answer is false, because there could be a very good reason to hold off making a decision or a task. Extra time could allow you to obtain more information, formulate a better plan, make a better choice. So don't feel like you've got to be efficient. The idea here is to be effective. The second one is chronic procrastination. Procrastinators can change. And happily, the answer is true. We can unlearn bad habits. So, yeah, we need to focus on the benefits of changing our habits in order to have the motivation to unlearn them. And then third, you can always perform better under pressure. And that's false. You can set yourself up to fail really fast because you usually aren't able to perform better under pressure. Usually your best work comes as a result of forethought, adequate time, preparation, practice, things like that. And then, yeah, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I think there's something to be said for like giving yourself a deadline that's, you know, maybe a little quicker than you normally would do, but still giving yourself enough time to do everything that you need to do. And then putting in the strategy to then break down that task so you can, you know, it really is, you know, IT project management 101, you know, what's the end date and what are the tasks and how do we, you know, lay it out so that you get it done in a timely manner without making yourself crazy.
Sure, with all the milestones and hit those milestones. Yeah, that's right. And the fourth one is you inherit procrastination from your parents. This was a new one for me. I heard this recently. But even if one of your parents is a chronic procrastinator, scientists have not discovered a procrastination gene. It is a choice, and it is a bad one.
Yeah, it's like a learned habit, really. You know, you get it from your parents. So when you're in that environment, I can see where you can start picking up that habit, but it's really a habit.
And it's a choice. Mm-hmm.
Choice, yeah.
So now we're going to hit on strategies.
Excellent.
Yes, what we've been waiting for, the battle against resistance. This slide was taken directly from Stephen Pressfield's War of Art. And I love it because he's absolutely right. And this is what I've been doing, what I realized this summer. I didn't quite know what was going on. I'm making a decision on whether I want to move or not. Mm-hmm. And I moved a lot in my life, and it's no fun. And yet this move idea keeps hitting me from every angle. And what I did was I decided to rip my house apart and completely remodel it. But instead of doing it in a sensible way, I ripped the whole house apart. I didn't do it room by room. And I made it an overwhelming task. And I didn't really understand what was going on until I actually started slowing down and analyzing and even doing quite a bit of tapping on it. And I realized that I'd set myself up to be able to rationalize. Well, I can't do that now. I can't make the decision now because I've got a house to fix.
Right.
I've got painting to do. I've got a new floor to lay. I've got a roof that has to be put on. And I love this comment from Pressfield because he says, You'll wake up every day with resistance, and it's a war, baby, and war is hell. And he even says, in order to be authentic, when you look in the mirror, you need to see G.I. Joe or G.I. Jane. You need to see yourself in combat boots, ready to go regardless of what's going on around you. If you're the infantry, if you cave in today and you don't take that hill, you're twice as likely to cave in tomorrow. And Winston Churchill said, when you're going through hell, keep going. Don't get stuck there. Keep going. And yeah, we're resistance Marines. What does not kill us makes us stronger.
You know, the big thing is that you always just have to show up. You know, you just have to either show up to the page, to the computer, to the coaching session, to the workout, to whatever it is. You got, you know, 9/10 of it is just go there. Just show up and sit down and start doing it. And don't let anything else get in the way of it. And that's the tough one, because resistance always so raises its head and tries to stop us. And so you have to really make that a sacred part of your day.
Exactly. And to stop procrastination resistance, here's some bullet points. What it boils down to is what my friends in the UK say. They always say, yard by yard, it's hard, but inch by inch, it's a cinch.
Mm.
And I love that. They said that was from Winnie the Pooh. They learned that from childhood. And the Brits are they're pretty good at accomplishing things. I appreciate that very much about them. And they set priorities. They make sure that everything's going to be effective in the end. But
you know, and I'll give an example of that. So I create a newsletter every month. And if I were just to sit down and put on my to-do that make the newsletter, it's too big. But there's different segments to that newsletter. So I'll say, okay, I'll write it all out. Intro, blog, EFT, book, whatever I change in there. And I have each of those as a task. So I know maybe, you know, like on Monday, I did 2 of those tasks. You know, just take that project. It's just like you said with the yard by yard and inch by inch. It's also the how do you eat an elephant, you know, one bite at a time. You need to create those projects into smaller and smaller segments. It's exactly how you do a project plan. And start thinking of anything that you want to get done, even like, let's say if it's like losing weight or learning to cook, it's a project. What are the different pieces of that project and how can I break them down?
Yes, it's a recipe.
It's a recipe.
Yeah,
it's really good for, you know, we were talking about this before we actually started the call. And just to let everyone know too, we're at the half hour. We have a few more minutes to go. So if you could just hang on, give us another 10 to 15 minutes, and then we'll be through all this material. But this part is important because this is going to help you figure out how to actually get through the resistance. And one of the things we were talking about before we actually started our call today, Renee, was we were talking about, you know, highly sensitive people and also people with ADHD. That's where procrastination can really come into play because we feel so overwhelmed. And if you take whatever it is that you're trying to do and break it into smaller segments, I guarantee it will become easier and easier and easier to get things done and get your projects done. Don't say to yourself, I'm going to take 8 hours today and sit down. Nobody does that. We never did it at work that way. You can't do it that way. No one can sit for 8 hours or even 4 hours. You know, break into small half-hour to hour segments and then just work it.
Right. Very good. What we need in order to overcome resistance. Now, this is what really helps me personally. I set my intentions for the day. In the morning, I pour myself a cup of coffee, I meditate, pray, I'll tap. And one of the things that I always try to center myself with is being true to the authentic Renee. I want to stop negativity in its tracks. Negative people and negativity that's coming from me. And really, this is what saved me in that situation where I had to cook for that friend who was having surgery. I realized that what I was going through, the feelings that I was having, was not really me. That's not where, that wasn't coming from the real Renee.
Mm-hmm.
And I recognized that pretty quickly. And so then I slowed down, I tapped on it, I realized what was going on, and stopped it, and then came from that place of love and was able to move on in my little blissful state. And setting those intentions for the day for me is huge. It's gigantic, because then I can, if I'm losing myself, I can come back to this, the real Renee, the authentic Renee, and snap myself right back into it. And it really helps me immensely.
Yeah, I think that is, I think that's great. I love that you tap on whatever is bugging you, setting the intentions for the day, because I like to say too, you know, if you get in the car and say today is going to suck, you've set your intention. So it's about deliberately setting your intention for the day and putting yourself on a course to have a really good day. And I wanted to add something in here that I completely forgot about until this last second. I've done a lot of workshops with Sonia Choquette out of Chicago. And she always used to say, don't forget to ask for gifts. Don't forget to ask the universe for gifts, and let the gifts show up, and then record them. And the gift can be something small. You know, it doesn't have to be anything huge, but maybe someone said something nice to you, or you got a testimonial, or someone bought you coffee. All of those things count. You know, write them down at the end of the day to show what gifts you got. And it's so set an intention and ask for gifts.
Yes, and that's important, because otherwise we can end up only giving, and we will completely run out of steam. It'll be gone. We need to feed ourselves with the good things also. Also, every year on March the 4th, I wave my little flag. I have my little silent parade. I'm very grateful for the things that I accomplished. And it's kind of, I kind of feel like it's me being the soldier, the resistance Marine, hitting that flag, planting that flag on the hill, and understanding the enemies that I've conquered, negativity, whatever, and being grateful for that and seeing it very clearly, and then considering the next hill, my new goals, and drawing a roadmap towards them. So some people take their birthdays off to celebrate each year. I take off March 4th. I've been doing this for 20 years, and I celebrate my accomplishments on March 4th.
I love this so much. It's like the perfect time, because March, that's my birthday month, but it's kind of a crummy month, right? It's like rainy. It's the perfect time to do that, because it's like a great way to kind of set your sights for the spring to come, and I think that's perfect. So you and I had talked about that. We're going to include everyone to do a March 4th on March 4th. So we'll be sending out an email on that come that time, so we can all do it together. It'd be really fun.
It will be fun. It'll be a lot of fun. And we've talked a little bit about EFT, but some folks might not know what that is. It means emotional freedom techniques, and some people call it tapping. It's really a form of emotional acupressure. It's a type of energy psychology. We all have, every living being has an energy in their body, and it's been used by medical professionals for over 100 years, because anytime you have an EEG or an EKG, the medical professional is monitoring the energy in that organ in your body. And so this emotional acupressure is helping you to gain clarity, to move on. You don't forget things that have happened, but you gain the clarity to be able to throw the negative emotions away from the situation. And it's based on the meridian points in the body, the same meridian points that acupuncturists use. And it's also a way to quickly calm the amygdala, which is a little organ inside of our brains.
And it's our favorite technique.
It is. It's wonderful. I really appreciate having learned it. I had a psychologist years ago when I went through a very difficult divorce, and he said to me, all you really need is to learn this tool. This tool will come in handy for the rest of your life.
Mm-hmm.
And he taught it to me, and he's right. And then I decided to expand it further and take the classes and, you know, do the work for it. And Gary Craig developed it in the 1980s. But I do want to mention here that that just because Gary, you can find old Gary Craig tapes and videos on EFT, doesn't mean that you should think that they're going to resolve all your problems. In fact, you should really, if you're having a recurring situation, you should seek out a professional to be able to help you gain some clarity and reframe that whole situation if you've got some trauma. Don't just think that just because somebody watched a Gary Craig video that they know how to do it.
Right. That's really, really important.
Really, really important. And some people say, well, I'm talking to myself positively. I'm going to talk myself out of this bad habit. I'm going to talk myself into this good habit. But the feelings behind these thoughts and habits are what's really important. Words, you can say all the words you want to say, but you've got to get to the emotions, the feelings, the thoughts, and memories. And EFT can help find the resistance that's not quickly apparent to you.
Mm-hmm.
It provides tremendous clarity. It shines the light on the situation. So just talking does not have the same effect.
Right. You have to tap, and you also, the words are also used to then evoke those emotions. That's, yeah.
Yeah, that's how it goes. That's how it works. Sometimes you'll uncover trauma as you're tapping, and you want to continue to tap until the intensity subsides. And then work with a professional that understands how to overcome trauma. It's not going to take away your memories, but it is going to take away the bad feelings and around the trauma, the awful emotions. And it's going to leave you with a much clearer, truthful memory of what occurred.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's really well put. Perfect.
Thanks. And let's see, next slide. If you can't identify where the resistance is coming from, you can really set your intention point and then tap for 30 days and just accept the resistance. And that's the karate chop point on the side of the hand, where you say, I don't understand where this resistance is coming from, but I still deeply and completely love, accept, and forgive myself. And you can begin to start seeing. That's what I ended up having to do this summer with all the resistance I had to this idea of moving. I didn't understand any of it, and it started getting clearer. In fact, as I was not understanding it and I wasn't getting it, I had to actually give the resistance a form, a shape, and a color. And I had to figure out where in my body the resistance was lying, so that I could zone in on it deeper and deeper and get closer and closer to it. And then there it was. It just reared its ugly head, and I saw it very clearly. And I was able to switch the emphasis on what I was focusing on, which was this wreck of a house that I'd torn apart, to what it really was, which was, I'm thinking I really need to make a major move here. And everything shifted. It was terrific. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's great. And I like how you did that, you know, where you were looking, you gave it a color, you gave it a shape. I mean, you really were digging and mining for what that resistance was. It was really, really well done.
Mm-hmm. A lot of times we make ourselves the resistance, and then we end up blaming ourselves. It's my fault. I'm such a bad person. I can't do this again. Oh, my family's cursed. We all have this problem. And when you can start to see the resistance is outside of yourself. When you make it the resistance yourself, then that becomes part of your identity. And our resistance is still there, but it needs to be completely separate from ourselves. And you can tap on just accepting yourself and the resistance. Even if I'm to blame, even if I caused it, I'm going to accept myself. I'm going to still love myself because I'm taking a snapshot of myself in this point in time. And I do love myself at this point in time. I know that in the future, I'll get better. But the snapshot is today.
Yeah, that's perfect.
Yeah, yeah. So now we have some resources. We talked about Stephen Pressfield, who Eva and I are both in love with, and these are some of the nonfiction books that he's written. And then there's some websites that have been very good for us. And of course, you're going to want to replay and share this video of this webinar. And you can go to the Vision Op Group LLC, to their YouTube channel, and play this video.
Yeah, they're all out there. All the webinar Wednesdays will be out there too.
Great.
And I'll also be sharing this. I'll be sending this out either today or tomorrow, so everyone can have that. And I love that you have Stephen Pressfield's website. It's pretty good. And of course, the work of Byron Katie. There's no one better to help you get through analyzing your thoughts, because really at the end of the day, all of this is around getting comfortable and getting real with yourself and working through this resistance with yourself. And then you can then talk to the people in your life to have them help you move on with your goals, so you can help them as well. Oh, and I also want to talk about Tapping Q&A. It's Gene Montrestelli's site, and he's got an amazing set of tapping podcasts out there that you could just access just by going to the site. So he's terrific.
Yeah, and it's all free. So
yeah,
really, really benefit yourself. Q&A.
Does anyone, I know that we're running actually we're right on time, just under 45 minutes. Does anyone have any questions or comments that they would like to make? And while we're doing that, Renee, why don't you share the next slide that's got your contact information on it?
Sure.
And if any of you have any questions for me or for Renee, here is our contact information. We would love to hear from you. If there is anything that you would like to hear from us, if there's any Webinar Wednesday topic that you would like to have discussed, I would be very open to that. So please go ahead and email us as well.
Great.
So I don't see any questions. So thank you so much, everyone, for joining. I really appreciate it. And thank you, Renee. What a lot of great information. It was very, very helpful.
Yeah, I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it as well. As I said, I'm the poster child for overcoming resistance.
Yeah, I think we all are, right? I mean, because it's just not an easy thing. I mean, it's tough. So having some tools in place, getting, reading the books, going to Byron Katie, going to Stephen Pressfield, all of that will help. And then tap on it.
Yeah, great. Thank you, Eva.
Thank you. Have a great day, everyone.
Bye-bye.